Welcome to the debate. For over a century, standing in the technical area of a football pitch was basically like being the captain of a ship in the middle of a really severe squall.
Right, yeah.
You're feeling the wind on your face, you're watching the swell of the water, and you are relying almost entirely on your gut to just, navigate the chaos.
You sense a momentum shift in the game before you can actually even put it into words.
Because the storm is inherently unpredictable. Your only true compass out there is your lived experience. You read the body language of a tiring midfielder. You feel that sudden spike of anxiety in the stadium, and you just make a call.
It's a deeply human act of interpretation.
Exactly. But imagine suddenly being handed a dashboard on that ship. A dashboard that doesn't just measure the current wind speed, but mathematically predicts the exact shape, the timing, and the impact of the next 100 waves.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then it tells you precisely when to turn the wheel. So today we are exploring the integration of generative artificial intelligence into the 2026 World Cup. Specifically, we're examining the ethical boundaries of using AI for real-time tactical command.
Right. We're analyzing the impact of these predictive analysis tools on the intuitive decisions of coaches. And honestly, it is a massive paradigm shift.
It really is. We're looking at FIFA's deployment of Football AI Pro, which is, it's a proprietary system developed with Lenovo, and they've handed this to all 48 competing national teams.
Yeah, and it processes over 2,000 performance metrics per match.
2,000.
Right, and delivers real-time tactical insights straight to the dugout.
Which brings us to the core conflict we really have to grapple with today. Does predictive analysis ethically democratize and elevate a coach's tactical command? Or, does it dangerously erode the human intuitive decision-making that is entirely foundational to the sport?
Right.
Because I look at this technology and I see equal access to comprehensive data-driven insights. To me, that represents an ethical triumph, one that enhances human judgment rather than replacing it.
Well, and I look at that exact same dashboard and see a profound ethical risk. Flooding coaches with real-time predictive analytics crosses a line. It ultimately reduces intuitive human command to mere algorithmic compliance.
Okay, well, let's ground this in the reality of international football as it has existed for decades. Historically, we've had this massive financial bias. Wealthy federations, so nations like France, Brazil, England,
Sure.
they could afford enormous data science departments. They had actual armies of statisticians, video analysts, software engineers, all building these proprietary systems to analyze opponents.
Right, they essentially had a massive corporate infrastructure backing their tactical setup.
Exactly. Meanwhile, smaller nations were competing with drastically incomplete information. They were relying mostly on traditional video review and pure coaching intuition. The arrival of Football AI Pro changes that paradigm entirely. This is a democratizing force.
Is it, though?
Yes. Every single one of the 48 teams at this tournament receives the exact same proprietary generative AI model.
But look, if you're listening to this and thinking, well, data has been in sports for decades, so what is the big deal? We really need to clarify what this actually is. We aren't just talking about post-match spreadsheets anymore.
No, absolutely not. The generative leap is what matters here. We are talking about a system that instantly processes 2,000 metrics simultaneously.
Right.
From pressing intensity and transition phases to intricate spatial movement patterns. And because it's generative, it isn't just plotting a graph. It synthesizes those data points and delivers precise, actionable recommendations via text, interactive 3D charts.
And the automated video clips.
Right. Direct to the coaching staff's tablets during the live match. Giving coaches this objective reality doesn't kill intuition, it validates it. It elevates the manager from engaging in reactive guesswork to executing proactive tactical mastery.
Uh-huh.
Think of it like giving every student in a classroom the same advanced textbook. We aren't answering the test for them. We are just removing the wealth barrier to studying.
See, I come at it from a different way. The textbook analogy sounds noble, sure, but it assumes every student has the prerequisite foundation to actually process that advanced text in real time.
Well, they're professional coaches.
Yeah, but the source material explicitly states a critical limitation here. Smaller federations still lack the technical infrastructure and the trained personnel back home to interpret the sheer volume of data effectively.
I mean, true, but
Pumping 2,000 continuous metrics into a dugout does not just provide facts. It creates what we call the paradox of perfect information.
wait, the paradox of perfect information, break that down.
Yeah, so when you pump that much data into a high-stress environment, it actually causes paralysis. Imagine a coaching staff that isn't historically accustomed to massive data science operations.
Okay.
Suddenly, in the heat of a live knockout match, they are pumped full of real-time, multi-format data streams. The tablet is buzzing, it's flashing red, telling them that their central midfielder's pressing efficiency has dropped 14% in the last 10 minutes.
Right? Which is vital information.
But they simply do not have the cognitive bandwidth to synthesize that critically while managing the emotional flow of the game. So what happens? They defer to the machine.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Overwhelmed coaching staffs are pushed by the sheer weight of the data to blindly accept the AI's conclusions. They aren't analyzing the data anymore, they are obeying it.
See, I think that wildly underestimates the professionalism of these coaches. But let's look at how that data actually functions and how it's generated. Because the system's true brilliance lies in tracking deviations from pre-match tactical plans.
Okay.
Before generative AI, a coach had to wait until halftime to consult with assistants, review sparse video clips, and, try to correct a structural issue. Now the AI tracks the exact spatial geometry of all 22 players.
Right.
If your attacking players are consistently arriving a half second late in the final third, or if your defensive line is dropping 2 meters too deep and creating exploitable gaps, the AI flags that deviation within minutes.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why.
Go for it.
That is precisely where the ethical boundary gets shattered. The moment the AI transitions from merely describing the state of the game, saying, hey, your line is 2 meters deep, to actually recommending a real-time tactical intervention, like raise the line by 2 meters now, your human intuition is effectively bypassed.
Wait, back up. How is it bypassed if the coach still has to physically make the decision to relay that instruction to the players? It's not like the tablet shouts at the defense.
No, but it's bypassed psychologically. Football is not a solved mathematical equation. It is an incredibly dynamic, highly emotional contest. Let's take your defensive line example.
Sure.
A defensive line might be dropping deep, not because of a structural error that needs fixing, but because those two center backs are intuitively managing their fatigue in 90-degree heat.
Okay, fair.
Or perhaps they can see right in the eyes of the opposing striker that he's preparing to make a blindside run. So they naturally drop to protect the space.
So you're saying the AI lacks the context of the human physical and emotional state?
Exactly. The AI just sees a geometric deviation from the pre-match input and flags it as a literal error, reacting to the machine's mathematical ideal rather than the actual human feel of the game, strips the sport of its essential character.
But
You start managing a simulation of the game rather than the game itself. And the pressure to conform is immense. If the AI recommends a substitution and you ignore it to trust your gut and then your team loses,
well, yeah, the press.
the press will absolutely crucify you. He ignored the supercomputer. The system inherently pressures managers into becoming middle managers whose primary function is just executing an algorithm's recommendations to avoid taking the blame.
I see why you think that, but let me give you a different perspective. That assumes the AI's recommendations are totally devoid of context. But the generative model is constantly learning the context of the match.
Is it though?
Yes, the source material is very clear on this. The system acts as a comprehensive support network, but human judgment remains absolutely essential for final decisions. But I want to pivot to how this technology actually simulates the future, because I think this addresses your point about predicting behavior.
Okay.
This tournament introduces the creation of 3D digital avatars for all 1,248 tournament players.
Ah, the digital twins.
Right, the digital twins. And just to explain how this works, every player undergoes a rapid body scan, taking merely seconds. The system captures their exact height, their unique body dimensions, limb length, and even their specific center of gravity.
Right, it maps them perfectly.
Exactly. Coaches can then use these digital twins to run complex tactical simulations before the match even begins. It's like running a highly sophisticated weather forecasting model, but for a football match.
A weather model?
Yeah. You can input your preferred tactical approach, say a high-pressing 4-3-3, and the AI runs thousands of physics-based simulations to generate a prediction of how the opponent will physically respond.
And you honestly think predicting human behavior with a physics engine is reliable?
I think it's an unprecedented level of preparation. You can predict a goalkeeper's diving tendencies under specific angles of pressure, or anticipate a penalty taker's strategies based on deep behavioral patterns analyzed over their entire career. It finds the invisible habits.
Look, the weather model analogy is actually perfect, but not for the reason you think.
How so?
You can run 10,000 simulations of a hurricane's path based on current atmospheric data, but a sudden, entirely unquantifiable shift in air pressure can render that model instantly useless.
Sure, but
Human emotion is that sudden shift in air pressure. Treating human beings as 3D avatars in a digital simulation fundamentally assumes that players are perfectly rational, predictable agents.
But over a large enough sample size, athletes do revert to deeply ingrained physiological habits. That is literally what the AI is mapping.
In a regular league match in October, maybe. But we are talking about a World Cup knockout stage here. Relying on an algorithm to predict a penalty taker's psychological pattern fundamentally disrespects the volatile, entirely irrational nature of that specific moment.
I wouldn't call it disrespectful.
It is. The pressure of 90,000 screaming fans, the profound physical exhaustion of 120 minutes of play, the literal weight of an entire nation's expectations on a 22-year-old's shoulders. None of that can be accurately simulated by a digital twin reacting to historical data.
Even if it can't quantify the emotion, isn't it still better to know that historically when this player's heart rate spikes, he pulls his shot to the left?
Better for the data analyst, maybe, but it's dangerous for the coach's instincts. When a coach trains themselves to trust the simulation over the actual breathing, terrified human being standing in front of them, they lose their connection to the reality of the sport.
I just don't see how having more information is dangerous.
It trains the manager to look at a player as a predictable input. If the AI says the keeper dives left 80% of the time, the coach stops looking at the keeper's actual stance in the moment. The intuition is completely drowned out by the statistical probability.
I hear the philosophical concern, I really do. But let's break down the mechanics of what you're asking a coach to do without the AI.
Okay.
Simulating these scenarios with 3D avatars is simply a hyper-advanced version of preparation. It is philosophically no different from a coach locking themselves in a dark room and watching 50 hours of opponent tape to understand a penalty taker's habits.
Well, the AI just does it infinitely faster, without the limits of human fatigue, and with far, far more comprehensive data synthesis. Human analysts try to do this anyway, they're just much worse at it.
But the human analyst knows when they are guessing. The AI presents its output with absolute certainty.
Because the underlying data feeding these insights is incredibly precise. This isn't just a machine hallucinating possibilities from thin air. Let's look at the hardware making this possible.
All right, each stadium is equipped with 12 dedicated tracking cameras. They are capturing up to 29 distinct data points on every single player's skeleton, 50 times per second. Furthermore, the match ball itself contains an internal sensor, sending data 500 times per second.
Yes. The same infrastructure powering the semi-automatic offside technology.
Exactly. And look at how successful that has been. It cut offside review times by 30 seconds with near-perfect accuracy, providing entirely unambiguous 3D visual evidence to referees. It literally removed human error from a binary physical reality. The data collection is fundamentally trustworthy.
I will readily acknowledge the precision of the offside technology. Creating transparency for the fans with those 3D replays solves a major historical grievance with video review. But we absolutely must distinguish between objective physics, like whether a striker's kneecap is past the defensive line at the exact millisecond the ball is struck,
Right?
and subjective tactical interpretation.
But how does the data quality degrade just because we're measuring tactics instead of offsides? The skeletal points are the exact same.
Because the material contains specific warnings about the fragility of this data collection in dynamic environments. Environmental factors like heavy rain, poor stadium lighting, or unexpected sensor malfunctions can severely compromise data quality. What happens when an AI hallucinates a pattern?
Hallucinates a pattern? Explain how that would actually happen on the pitch.
Okay, let's say a heavy storm rolls in during the second half. The camera array struggles with the lighting contrast and the rain interference. It misinterprets the spatial tracking of the opponent's midfield and falsely reports to the AI that the opponent is shifting to a high press.
Okay, but
Let me finish. The generative algorithm takes that flawed data, synthesizes it, and confidently recommends a defensive counter tactic on the manager's tablet. The coach, who, as we discussed, has been conditioned to trust the machine's absolute authority, alters their tactical command based on that hallucination.
the system performs multiple automated quality checks before confirming any data output. It verifies data sufficiency and cross-references player positioning constantly to prevent exactly that from happening.
But no system is perfectly fail-safe in a chaotic physical environment. And when that error happens, human accountability is completely lost. Who takes the blame for the tactical failure that knocks a country out of the World Cup?
Well, the coach.
The coach for listening? The Lenovo engineers for a software bug? The camera operators? When you interpose an AI between the coach and the game, a skeptical distance must be maintained. And my argument is that this system's design, pushing 2,000 metrics in real time, flashing authoritative commands, actively destroys that skepticism.
I mean, if you're relying entirely on real-time commands without any pre-match understanding, sure. But beyond the live match, look at how this data transforms accountability and understanding after the final whistle.
Right, post-match.
This is where the generative aspect is truly revolutionary. The AI algorithms automatically analyze entire matches to detect key moments. It flags exciting plays, recognizes momentum shifts, and instantly segments critical incidents into these highly searchable video libraries.
The post-match content automation is undeniably efficient. I won't argue against saving analyst time.
It's more than just saving time, though. It's about objective reality. A coach no longer has to spend 14 hours manually scrubbing through video to figure out why their midfield was overrun.
True.
The AI writes a natural language summary of the structural failure and pairs it with the exact video clips. Furthermore, the players themselves receive individualized objective breakdowns. A midfielder can be shown exactly how their passing accuracy increased when the team switched formations. It completely removes the bias from human coaching.
Removes bias or just enforces a completely different kind of bias?
How can objective geometry be biased? A player cannot argue with movement trajectories demonstrating they are making inefficient runs. It accelerates personalized development because the feedback is instant, visual, and entirely indisputable.
Indisputable according to the machine's parameters of what constitutes good football. But efficiency in movement is highly subjective. This is the crux of the human element.
What do you mean?
A run that the generative AI flags as inefficient because it wasted physical energy and didn't result in a pass reception might have been a deliberate, intuitive decoy run.
A decoy run the AI couldn't quantify.
Exactly. A run designed purely to pull a specific defender 2 steps to the left, opening a channel for a teammate. Something the player and coach agreed upon intuitively, based on feeling out the defender's anxiety. But the AI looks at the skeletal data, sees energy expended without ball contact, and flags it as an error. By standardizing what is considered optimal play through a central algorithm, we really risk commoditizing the sport.
But the AI does not prescribe a single style of play. It doesn't tell a possession-based team to suddenly play long ball counterattack. It analyzes the effectiveness of whatever unique style the coach implements.
For now, but if every young player in a national team academy is being molded to hit the exact same elite performance benchmarks established by this universal AI, we are going to coach the creativity, the flair, and the beautiful unpredictability entirely out of the players. We lose the distinct tactical identities, the Brazilian flair, the Italian defensive grit, that make international football so compelling.
I see that fear, I do. But I believe we have to weigh it against the profound ethical victory of leveling the global playing field.
Right.
By offering these precise insights, from automated key moment detection to highly individualized performance profiles, Football AI Pro frees coaches from tedious manual review. It allows true human tactical genius to operate with perfect information, rather than operating in the dark. Smaller nations finally have the analytical firepower to punch above their weight.
That is a fair point.
It ensures that the tournament is decided by talent and preparation on the pitch, not by the size of a federation's bank account.
I hear that. And while I readily acknowledge the benefits of the post-match automated content, and obviously the undeniable precision of the new offside technology, I simply cannot look past the boundary of real-time tactical command.
Yeah.
The ethical risk we face is that continuous, authoritative, predictive analysis will eventually drown out human intuition entirely. The true art of coaching involves empathy, instinct, and the courage to make an irrational change that catches an opponent completely off guard. If we rely on AI to tell us what will happen before it does, we are no longer managing a game, we are just administering an algorithm.
Well, it is clear we are looking at two very different sides of a major paradigm shift here. You see the paradox of perfect information eroding instinct. I see the removal of historical blind spots empowering true strategy. But I think there is a profound point of convergence we've actually arrived at here.
Which is?
The integration of generative AI is a permanent, transformative reality for this sport.
Oh, absolutely. The technology is not retreating. The genie is well and truly out of the bottle. And moving forward, the gap won't be between those who have data and those who don't.
Right.
It will be between those who can successfully balance this immense technological capability with their own human judgment, and those who either arrogantly ignore it or blindly surrender to it. That balance will define the new hierarchy of international football for decades to come.
Spot on. And there is still so much more complexity to explore within this material, particularly concerning how this will shape personalized player development moving forward, and the introduction of AI-generated opponents in immersive VR training environments.
Oh, the VR stuff is wild.
We are fundamentally rewiring how the next generation will understand the game.
We really are. The baseline for what constitutes basic preparation has been raised to an almost unimaginable standard.
And as we watch these World Cup matches unfold, the question remains whether this tournament will represent the ultimate beautiful fusion of human intuition and machine intelligence, or the exact moment the algorithm quietly took the wheel. Think back to our ship captain in the storm at the top of the show.
Right.
The dashboard is installed, the waves are mapped, and the precise moment to turn is blinking in bright red on the screen. Did the storm finally get conquered, or did the captain just become a passenger?